Hi, I'm Andy. I'm a youth and children's worker and I love woodwork. Now, what would you say if somebody came to you and said, could you make me a holding cross? Well, that's what I thought. What's a holding cross? Well, I'll talk to you about crosses later, but a holding cross is something that people hold when they're worried and sometimes ill. The person asking me was a chaplain in a hospice who was looking after people who were in difficult times and some quite poorly. So when I said, okay, I'll have a go at carving some crosses, it turns out that they're even more appreciated than ones that come from a factory. And the reason is they're handmade. One chaplain even said, you can feel the love. I think I know what they mean. So the problem is I can't make them quick enough. And I start with a piece of wood that I cut out. It's got very sharp edges. And then I use a machine to round it. So it ends up looking like this. But when you feel it, it's flat on the front. It's got pointy bits in the corners. It looks a bit like a 50p piece here. So what I'd like is some help to try and make about 40, and there's a chance you could help by doing them at home for me if you're interested. So on the subject of crosses, you sometimes see them as jewellery around people's necks. You sometimes see them on buildings. I've seen them on books, and you may have spotted them in a few different places. But what's a little bit odd about the cross we've got, it's not quite symmetrical. It's a bit odd shaped, isn't it? And the reason for that is to hold on to something, it needs to be the right shape for your hand. So to hold on to this cross, it's supposed to fit your fingers like that. The other interesting thing about crosses is some people think that they represent a bridge, and the bridge is God here and us here, and Jesus becomes the bridge where he joins us back to God. So, whilst there's no mysterious powers to a holding cross, there is a truth, and there is a promise, and there's a simple reminder. And the truth is that when we feel sad or hurt, Jesus knows what it's like to be hurt. And the promise is that God will never leave us or forsake us. And the simple reminder is of the price Jesus paid so that all may come to know the love of God. So using the flat file and moving it up and down the edge of the holding cross between the flat and the curved part where there's a ridge, you'll see Emily and Finley can get rid of that ridge and make it completely smooth.
Who made the earth, who blessed the stars, the moon and sun. God is holding your life. God is holding.
But there are 8 sides on each side of the cross, 16. So it's not a 5-minute job. It takes quite a time to go around all those 8 sides. When you come to the corners, the inside radiuses, the round file will help, but notice I keep changing the angle of it, just like they'll show you in a minute.
Where is the one who never sleeps? We call on one who guards
And finally they'll finish off by rubbing a piece of abrasive paper quickly up and down it to try and make it smoother.
God is holding your life, we believe. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life, we believe.
Checking the edges and the ends to see whether there's any flats left on them, and moving the file round in a circular motion to get rid of the flats. So it may take you half an hour to get it so it really feels quite smooth, remembering there are 4 points to it. You finish the holding cross. If you'd like to help the chaplains who are working in prisons and in hospices with poorly people, it would be great if you could include the cross in the pack provided and return it to the collection point where you were given it. If, however, you'd like to keep it yourself because you think you've got a personal use for it, that would be fine. It would be lovely to give maybe 20 or 30 of the crosses to the chaplains, but equally, if you're really proud of it and you think you've got a use of it yourself or within your family or friends, that would be fine to keep it.
God is holding your life, we believe. God is holding your life, yes, God is holding your life. Oh, God is holding